Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Black Spinner Music Podcast. And today's episode, we are going to be visiting Neil Young's output of the 1990s, which was a very great decade for him. After his 80s output was a little, how can I say, mishmash,
Spotty.
spotty. Exactly, it was spotty. And on today's panel today, we have the great Will Toth from Will's Rush page and other pages that is fantastic. You can find sales and find articles that is very hard to find. So check him out, Will Toth. He is on Facebook and also has a fantastic YouTube page with a lot of archival music of Rush, Sabbath, Neil Young, who we're going to be talking about today, and a bunch of stuff like that. And also today we have Al Horta from the Be Cool or Be Podcast Out. A lot of great live shows that he recorded himself out there. So check him out. He puts on some really good shows out there. And of course, I'm Andy Rodriguez, the Black Spinner. And today we're going to be talking about Neil Young of the 1990s. Neil Young was let's go around the horn here. What did you think about Neil Young of the 90s there, Will?
Yeah, it's well, thanks for having me again, by the way. And I want to congratulate Al. You just had a milestone with your subscribers on your YouTube page, I believe.
Yeah, 2,000, man.
We're at the 2,000. Yeah, congratulations.
2,000.
Yeah, that's that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah.
Thank
you. Yeah, that's good.
I never shit, man. When I got to 100, like, I was like, it's like, you get to these plateaus, it's like, wow, I'm really glad for this,
Yep.
It seemed like once it reached like 1,000, it just kind of snowballed. Like started going and going, and
Yep. No, I think you're doing well. I don't know how long you've been on, but my page has been around since like 2006. That's when most Rush page started. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I never really did any. I just made an account just to make an account. I mean, I never. Right. I mean, for years, man, I never put any content or anything on it. And then, once COVID hit, it was like before COVID, I did like my first video, and it was kind of fun. And then once COVID hit, and there was like nothing to do, it was like, well, shit, man, let me do some more stuff. And then when I started going to concerts, I would film some concerts, throw it up there, and people would like it and subscribe, and now it's like nothing, man. It's like holy shit.
Yeah, it's growing like crazy, and it's a great page, I got to say, because like I tagged you on my page in the what do you call it, the community section. So
thank you, man.
I have a thing for you, so people that I know. Yeah, no problem. But I've been watching it grow. But you're the man on the street with the concert footage. It's crazy. I go to your page to watch live shows, and I always know there's going to be some good quality live shows and full shows.
So, truth be told, I really, I'm glad to get like this content out there, and but like I really need to upgrade my phone to a better one. I'm still living like 10 years ago with my phone. And sometimes I get a little jabs on my pages, but I could take it. They're like, "Oh, dude, you got an iPhone 8?" I mean, that's like 10 years ago, and I'm like, "Well, listen, now I'm not the kind of guy that has to go upgrade every year, like what's the latest and greatest."
Me neither.
But I do feel the need. I want to upgrade to the latest one now, because I see a lot of these 4K videos. I'm like, holy shit, and they blow mine away. But I want to eventually. I'll do it. I mean, I want to move to my new house first, get settled in, and then I'll take care of that.
For sure.
But I thank you guys for the compliments. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. I love your page. It's good. So Neil Young in the 90s, what can I say? Excellent output for like a small output of records, but it's almost like I feel like I was listening today and yesterday and making some notes and stuff, because I didn't get a chance yesterday to make any notes, but I was digging in. It's almost like he wanted to correct some of the stuff that went on in the 80s. As you know from our show and the stuff we know, listening, his 80s output, I love it for what it is. And there's some that are better than others, of course. And not everybody likes everything, but it's a love-hate thing. But the stuff was very different and obscure and different. This decade seems to be more straightforward Neil Young, and we'll get into that. But more Crazy Horse, more Neil Young, acoustic stuff. I know we'll talk about these records, but I just feel like he was like, okay, I've had enough. I'm back on my original label. I'm happy about that whole thing. He came back to that original label in the late 80s on the last record, I think, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, and he was ready to go in this decade, right? So, and then as Al mentioned, the whole grunge movement was happening in the 90s, and he was working with some of these bands and promoting them and producing them and doing all kinds of cool stuff. And it's funny, in the 90s, I was listening to Neil big time, and I was playing to Neil, and I kind of missed a lot of the grunge stuff because I was like a true Neil fan. So in the 90s, I was still heavily into Rush and Neil Young, and that's what I was playing along with. So I discovered a lot of the grunge later. I heard it on the radio when it was coming out, but it didn't really impact me. I was still listening to Neil at the time, big time. So anyway, good decade for him. Good decade. Yeah.
Al, what did you think about his 90s music?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, like Will touched on that, the 80s was, the 80s were the 80s. Listen, artists from the 60s, 70s had a tough time, fitting into the 80s. The 80s is just kind of like this anomaly decade where, like, technology is kind of this, the digital recording starting to come in and all this, these productions that that haven't aged very well. So let's just say that, Neil experimented, as Neil always did. He experiments and stuff. But man, the 90s I feel like was more his decade. He was really reinvigorated and putting out real quality stuff. And yeah, man, I mean, he went crazy. I mean, like, he put out a lot of stuff with Crazy Horse, which is like some of my favorite stuff that he ever does anyway. I love when he comes to race with Crazy Horse. So that's the only one time. Well, I saw Neil twice actually in concert. Once on Farm Aid, and when it was him and his wife Peggy at the time.
Okay.
It was just kind of acoustic. But then I saw, like, it was about 10 years ago, I saw when he did a tour with Crazy Horse. I finally saw him with Crazy Horse, and I gotta say, it's one of the best shows, man. Like, it's just four guys just standing around stage and fucking jamming. And just like, if it's a bum note, it's part of the show, man.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? So, but I felt like the 90s was very kind of Neil. It's like I said before, a lot of these younger alternative grunge bands they embraced Neil. It was like, I mean, he got put into this category, like he was like the godfather of grunge, which, I mean, it was a tag put on him, but a lot of these grunge bands like loved and embraced him, and kind of made him like the father figure, and he put out some stuff. He's like, I want to make these young guys know that I'm still vital, So, I mean, I got into Neil because of my older brother, man. My older brother was a big Neil Young fan, and I remember him having the Live Rust album and always playing it on a turntable, and I was, I remember Like a Hurricane was like my favorite song as like a kid. I love that song, and then when the 90s came in, my brother was actually a huge Pearl Jam fan. And he kind of got reinvigorated with Neil as well. Like me and him were listening to a lot of Neil in the 90s. So we'll go through the albums and stuff, But I mean, I think it was a very strong decade for him, So great stuff.
Yeah. For the 1990s for Neil, that's when I got into Neil Young. I was in Austin, and I bought Live Rust. Back in like 90.
One of the greatest. I mean, that album should be up there with like the great live albums.
Oh yeah.
I feel like it doesn't get talked about enough, but yeah, I mean, I know you guys are huge Neil Young fans. I love that's my introduction really to Neil, man.
So. Yeah, same here. So I went there, and then I got Decade, and then, he was popular again in the 90s, and I wanted to know why. And it was, was a big difference with him being the legend that he is, and these young guys looking up to him. The thing was that he was still producing music at the time instead of them talking about him in the past. He was there in the present to do it along with them. Sometimes when they talk about legends, it's music that they did 20 years ago or something like that. This was Neil. Neil was there and present and giving more music and moving ahead and moving forward. And these albums he made in the 90s were the ones that the Geffen people want him to make in the 80s. So that was pretty hilarious as well.
Yeah.
Just tell him what to do, and everything will be fine. And he settled it into a newer, well, not a newer version, but a present version of Neil Young in the 90s. He thrived being inventive, just like Al was saying, and just moving ahead, and which he's still doing today. He doesn't look in the past, and he's very good at doing that.
Yeah.
So he released 5 albums in the 1990s. He toured extensively, and he was on festival packages throughout the 90s. He started off with Neil Young's and Crazy Horse with Ragged Glory. Yep. And then from there, he went along with, what did I do with it? Oh, he came out with Harvest Moon. Mm-hmm. And then he came out with Sleeping with Angels. Mm-hmm. And then the great experiment with Pearl Jam on Mirrorball. Yeah. And then he finished the 90s on a high note. At first, I really didn't like this album when it first came out. I thought it was a little bit too much, but during this past week, man, I've been jamming Broken Arrow.
Yeah.
I think the first 3 tracks are just just the smell of the horse, man.
You're a crazy horse. I was gonna say, first 3 tracks for sure. Yeah.
Those first 3 tracks were just amazing. So let's get started. What we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about the first 5 about these 5 albums. We'll go around the table for each album. Then after that, we will rank them 5 to 1. So let's start off with talking about the rebirth, the growth. After Freedom came Neil Young, Crazy Horse, Ragged Glory. Man, this was just a masterpiece. This was just amazing. It's an amazing piece of work.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Will.
Yeah. Well, like I said, what a great way to jump into the 90s. And I've got the LP and I have the CD as well. So yeah. You've seen the CD and the LP, I'm sure. This is hard to find, by the way. It's and this is my original. Still nice and clean and plays so good. It sounds so good. It's
worth a lot, man.
Yeah, I don't know what they go for now. The last time I looked, they were like $75 or $50, anywhere in that range. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm glad I got mine
I'm glad I have it. Yeah. Like I said, as we've all mentioned, what a great way to jump into the 90s, and such a solid rocking album, front to back. I made some notes around that. I said, solid rocker. Interestingly, it was recorded at Broken Arrow Ranch, so his ranch. And I guess they went into the studio and they just cut. They played for like 3 days or 4 days straight, and wow. They played. They had the songs written, and they just played the entire album over and over again, and recorded all of it. And I want to show you guys something. I've got a bootleg of those sessions. It's called the Ranch Rehearsals.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the first disc. This is hard to find. In fact, you can't find it anymore. I got it from a guy in Germany a number of years ago, and I asked him last year, during the pandemic. I said, "Do you have any more?" He said, "I've never seen it since." So, but there's a lot of outtakes here, like White Line. There's a few tracks of copies of White Line, Love to Burn, stuff like that. So you can hear the stop and starts, and Neil saying, so they did play it through, but he stopped a few tracks. You can hear him yelling at the guys, "Stop! That's no good. We're going to do it again." And then they start again. So there's a lot of false starts and stuff on there. It's interesting. I'm going to put that on my YouTube page at some point. But I will say my favorite songs on here, well, pretty much every song on this record is amazing. I don't think there's a bad song on here. Probably my favorites are Over and Over, Love to Burn, Mansion on the Hill, Days That Used to Be, Love and Only Love. But one thing I'll say, like some of the longer 10-minute Crazy Horse tunes on here, just this album feels like a garage band on fire. Like it is just deep, hard rock. It has that Horse sound from the beginning to the end. Even the closer, Mother Earth, electric track, recorded live. Just Neil and the band, not the band, but Neil doing an electric version of this Natural Anthem. Mm-hmm. Excellent piece of music. So it just closes out the album just beautifully. Interestingly enough, Country Home and White Line were recorded in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And I guess he played them acoustically. I don't know if the Horse did them. You guys can correct me or add to that. But and then the other thing I was reading was I know in 2017, 2018, he was talking about releasing they found 5 outtakes or 5 additional tracks that they forgot about during the recording sessions. And he was planning to release something called Reggae Glory 2 with those tracks and a live show, like a live show from that tour, Reggae Glory, so which became the Weld Tour. Mm-hmm. And then he changed the name to Smell the Horse. And now something is supposed to come out this year with that material. So that's what I was reading today. But you know what? I just love it. And the one more interesting point, they played so loud on this record between the recording sessions and the live tour. He ended up developing tinnitus as a result of this tour, and I believe it because it's such a powerful, loud record. A lot of Crazy Horse distortion and stuff. But if I want to, if you're looking for a hard rock record, this is, oh my God, and it's the best record to put on. And it sounds great on vinyl. It sounds good on digital. Like it's just well produced. And it's just got that grungy rock Crazy Horse feeling to it. So one of my favorite all-time records. I'd probably put it in my top 50 all-time records. And that's not an easy list, right, to build.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Our 50 is a crazy kind of, for us.
Yeah.
Our top 50 albums is a crazy wide variety.
Yeah, for sure. Someday you'll have to do that, Andy. It'll be like a 9-hour show, I think.
All right. We're gonna have to cut into pieces.
The first one was like 4 hours, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. That was just studio.
Yeah. Al, what did you think about the good old Ragged Glory there?
Oh man, when I revisited this album, man, I was like, wow, this is what a way to kick off the 90s, man. I mean, he just came out swinging, man, just kicking ass. And just like I said, man, before, like I love when he collaborates with Crazy Horse. And does, I love it. I love his Crazy Horse albums, man. They're loud, they're loose, it's just like the cover of the album. It's just 4 dudes in a garage just fucking, it's like they're jamming just for hours and recording and, just coming up with songs on the spot. And it's just such a great album. And like Will was saying, man, it's just from top to bottom. It's just I feel like there's no weak songs on this one. We'll see when we rank them at the end, but I mean, it might be the best album of the 90s. I mean, for his output, but I mean, we're gonna talk about some other albums, so. But Country Home and kicking off with that. I mean, Fucking Up. I remember Pearl Jam covering that, on a lot of their live shows. And I think the first time I went to go see Pearl Jam was actually the very first time they played Madison Square Garden, and they didn't play Madison Square Garden until the Yield tour, which was in '98.
Wow! It took them that long?
It took them that long, and that was the first time. And I remember Eddie Vedder specifically. My brother and I, we went to that show, and because they didn't play in our area a lot. It was when they had that war with Ticketmaster, and then they were trying to play these venues that weren't owned by Ticketmaster and all that shit. not to get off on a Pearl Jam tangent here. I know we're talking about Neil Young,
right.
but real quick. Yeah. I remember finally they were playing Mask on Fire. My brother and I was like, we got to go. It was like 2 nights. I remember they played September 10th and September 11th of '98. We went the first night, and I remember specifically when we bought the tickets. The tickets were cheap. I think they were like $25, and they broke down right on the ticket stub like what the Ticketmaster fee was and all that stuff. And that was the first time that really like being kind of, they were breaking everything down, man, just to let you know like how much Ticketmaster was fucking you. You know what I mean? So anyway, we went to that show, and I remember they played Fucking Up at this show, I believe. Yeah, and then I remember Eddie Vedder was saying, "Well, they say that you're nobody until you play Madison Square Garden." That was their first time playing it, man, which like amazed me. I was thinking, wow, I thought they were so big like in the early '90s. I thought maybe they had played there, and they never did. You know. So anyway, going back to Fucking Up, yeah, they covered that, and then going back to Neil, yeah, the long songs like Love to Burn, great song, you know, Love and Only Love. Mother Earth is the last song is a great tune. I mean, it just top to bottom awesome. I mean, Will really covered like, you know, the ins and outs of it. I mean, I'd love to get like a Rag of Glory expanded if he's gonna put it out, you know. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And that bootleg you got, man, that's pretty cool. I know I got a bunch of Neil Young bootlegs, and I gotta really like look for them. Maybe I might have that because a friend of mine was a huge bootleg collector of like a lot of different bands, and I remember getting a lot of stuff from him. And whether it might be burned or whatever, it might not be an original one like that, but I might have a burned copy of that, so I'll have to check.
Yeah.
But that's cool that, you know, you kind of brought that up. I don't have anything to show, man. Everything is away in boxes, so I have.
Yeah, like, you're in the middle of moving, for sure. So but that's no fun.
That's Rag of Glory, man. Great way to kick off the night. Go ahead, Andy, brother.
Yeah, man. Rag of Glory. What's to say? Well, there's a lot to say. You know, like Will was saying that Country Home and White Line were songs from the late '70s, but we didn't know that until Neil Young started to do these Neil Young archives coming out, and they were acoustic based. So it's completely different versions of these two songs, and they sound so fresh. Man, this is a CD that I like to pop in on road trips. It just sounds so great, you know. And the songs that I like on here are well, all of them really. The one song that kind of eluded me for a while and I didn't like and I would skip, but now I play it, is their cover of Farmer John. And it just sounds so good the way that they do it. Just so sludgy, and Neil Young just singing, kind of silly, but it matches the music. I'm not a big fan of Mother Earth though.
No.
No, it kind of drags for me because Love and Only Love and Days That Used to Be, golly, I love Days That Used to Be. Yeah. That could have been a simple acoustic song and sounded great, but instead they do it plugged in and kind of a melancholy way, kind of slowing down the horse, which I think it's been on record of saying, God bless David Crosby, but how much he hated Crazy Horse. That was the big deal about Crazy Horse. They didn't play that great. No, they did play great. They played the way Neil wanted them to play. And they are like the AC/DC of Neil Young, and they're fantastic. And I do have one of their albums here, their debut album by Crazy Horse with Danny.
Just them alone, right?
Huh?
Just them without Neil. I think they have 2 albums without Neil Young, right?
Yeah. They got 2. Yeah. And this is the one with Danny Whitten singing the lead vocals. And of course, we will lose Danny a year or 2 later, which led to a whole turmoil for both Neil and Crazy Horse. But man, this album, it just kills all the way through, over and over. It's one of my favorite songs as well. The lyrics are beautiful. The lyrics are very, very romanticizing, but in between each verse are some pretty good jams. You know, some really good soloing by Neil and Crazy Horse just going at it, man.
Yeah. You know, I got to say, Andy, sorry to cut you off. What I like about this, the production, I mentioned the production, like every instrument is out front on this bass, drums. Like it's got that pure horse driving sound, and you can hear everything clearly, and they're all bringing it. But I love it. And it's funny you mentioned a driving record, because I was thinking the same thing. This is a great, you take a long trip, if you're going on a road trip, this is a perfect record to take with you for sure. But go ahead.
Yeah. And to talk about the production, it's such a grungy album, but so clean at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, it's so dirty and clean. I love it. It's Crazy Horse with Neil Young doing Ragged Glory. And the second album that will come out in the 1990s, talk about a complete 180 or really complete 360 from this album, and which actually put him back kind of on the charts. Harvest Moon.
Yeah.
And then here's the back of it in color. I got this one on CD only. I don't have it on vinyl. I see it for sale and I never pick it up because I've already got it on CD. I bought this a while back. But what a acoustic based album from beginning to end. They say it's part 2 to Harvest. Well, just because to me, maybe the acoustic guitars and the name Harvest, but it's got a whole different feel to it, in my opinion. It's got a whole different feel. It's a whole different lyrics and writing for someone who's 20 years older, you know. And he talks more of being an older man and having responsibilities and having a family. So this one really hit home for me. Harvest Moon. It was also accompanied with his MTV Unplugged, which was a big success for him as well.
Mm-hmm.
You got to see Neil Young in his element, and he brought his old buddies with him, not just Crazy Horse, but the same old players from Harvest and those other acoustic based, like Spooner Oldham, and I believe Peggy was there, and so was his daughter Astrid. So he always has his family and friends close to him, and he puts that in his lyrics. What did you think about this album? Will?
Oh, sure. This is 1992. My God. So I was reading, this album was recorded in analog equipment because he damaged his, as I mentioned earlier, he damaged himself with the Ragged Glory session. So he wanted to return to some Harvest type acoustic type music. The thing that this record's got, this is okay. So it's almost like he did Ragged Glory, and then he was like, okay, there's my horse breakthrough for the 90s, and now I'm going classic Neil Young. The production, the songwriting, everything on this is amazing. Like, this is another one that's just excellent front to back. So many good tunes. Again, I was playing a lot of guitar, acoustic guitar to this record at the time. Unknown Legend, excellent song. From Hank to Hendrix, You and Me, Harvest Moon. Okay, so Harvest Moon was my wedding song. 1996, I got married. That was our song. And so I learned to play it. I didn't play it at the wedding, but I did learn to play it eventually. So it's not an easy song to play, believe it or not. War of Man, another great tune. Each classic Neil songs here, each one tells a story. And One of These Days, Such a Woman, Old King, that's a great sort of Harvest type, has a Harvest type feel to it. Dreaming Man, and Natural Beauty. Natural Beauty is an extremely powerful song, well written about the destruction of the earth and the Amazon and everything that was taking place at the time, of concern in the 90s. Love this record. There's nothing wrong with this record at all. This is like a go-to for sure. And it was, I won't do the ranking yet, but it was tough to rank this, I will say, because it is one of my favorite records. Like I said, it's just so well produced and written. There's some excellent guitar playing on here, like acoustic stuff on here. It's just beautiful. and it's pure Neil Young. This one, you can't go wrong with this. This also, you could take it to a campfire, play it in your car, play it at work, it's just a comforting record. It's like coming home, this record. And I think that's what it was for him too. It's like a coming home in that sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a great record. I'd give this one a 10 out of 10.
And then you're right that it's like coming home because he sounds so comfortable.
Yes.
In the 80s,
exactly.
he felt lost in the 80s, trying to do too much. When he got into the 90s, it just felt so Neil Young, and everything he did, it just felt so much like him. Al, what did you think about Harvest Moon?
Again, man, like I remember when this album came out, and it was like, it was a 180-degree turn from from Ragged Glory. I mean, it was Neil going back to acoustic, and just like Neil is awesome at like the loud, grungy, garage rock stuff. He's just as great with the acoustic, folky, roots stuff, and I mean that's just like that's what I loved about Neil, man. He can go from one thing to another, and it was just the songwriting here is just fantastic as well. I mean, Will went through all the songs. I mean, to me, this is another top to bottom album that's just A plus. It's just you could throw this on and just kind of. This is cool, man. Because when I was listening to this album, I just had dinner and I threw it on during dinner and having a nice drink and it was just cool to just kind of. And my parents were like, sitting in the kitchen and they weren't like, turn down that loud stuff. It was just kind of like, this really good music. I mean, they never did that when I was a kid anyway. I had great parents. So I'm just joking, but I know a lot of parents were like that. But this when you get older, I think, when I was younger, like, I liked the acoustic stuff, but it was like, give me the hard stuff, give me the. But now as you're older, you put this on, it's like you have such an appreciation for it, and I do. And this stacks up well perfectly with his 60s and 70s stuff, it could sit right alongside it. And like Andy said, man, just, I mean, a lot of people called it like, I guess the brother or the kind of the progression of Harvest. But yeah, it kind of is its own beast. You know what I mean? It's Neil even more mature than when he did Harvest. You know what I mean? He's an older man now, and he's in his mindset. This is what he is, So great album, man. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, man. When Harvest Moon came out, I was so enthralled by it. I just thought it was fantastic. I thought, and also this was also played at my wedding as well. This is a song that my wife had surprised me with, and we danced to it. So we had awesome. So we had two dances. So this was one of them, and then for one Christmas, she bought me the 45 of Harvest Moon. On the flip side is Old King, I think, right? Yeah, Old King's on the other side.
Yep, I think so. Yeah.
Geez, how to start on this album? Well, first let's start off from the beginning. The songs are just great. The song Unknown Legend, again, I can just picture this in my head as a movie, with her and the motorcycle, and now I love the line now she's dressing two kids looking for a magic kiss. How she's been used up and now she's looking to settle in. She's trying to find that man, and she can't find him, but he's out there somewhere, and how he used to order just to watch her float across the floor. That's just a great line.
Yeah.
And then the next track from Hank to Hendrix just talks about life in general. And it took me a while to figure out, from Hank Williams to Jimi Hendrix, two people or two musicians and people that he looked up to. And in fact, when it came to Prairie Wind, and when he finally was doing performances at the Grand Ole Opry, he was using Hank Williams' guitar. Is what he was using.
That's right. I remember seeing that. Yeah.
And that's when he wrote that song "Old Guitar," but that's for the 2000s episode. But Hendrix was a great jam. And I really liked the title track, of course, Harvest Moon, such a beautiful track. His words are just so beautiful. And War of Man is all right. To me, was a little bit too preachy for me. I liked where he just wrote about just everyday life. Like, one of these days, I'm going to sit down and write a long letter to everyone I know. Isn't that something we've always wanted to do ourselves? It's just so great.
Yeah, for sure.
And the other tracks, Old King, I love Old King because I have pets, and it talks about the greatest hound dog that he ever did know. He's always been an animal person, so he really did put his heart and soul into this. And Dreaming Man is a great track, and it's also on the Neil Young Archive title of another album called Dreaming Man, which has different alternate takes of this whole album of all of Harvest Moon. It sounds kind of the same, so you really have to listen closely to hear the differences. So
I sorry to interrupt you. I read about it when I was checking this out today. I guess there's a live record of these songs also, which I didn't know about until I found today. Is that the one you're talking about, or is that something? Oh, okay, cool.
That's the same one, Dreaming Man.
Dreaming Man. Okay, that's the one. Yeah, cool. Okay, I have to check it out. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've got it here because it was part of the Neil Young Archive
right.
that he had released. So that's all that I needed to say about Harvest Moon.
You know what is interesting? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Yeah, no. I was going to say that album, Harvest Moon, and I think it was the album itself in '94 won a Juno Award here in Canada.
Oh wow!
So it was a big deal. And the other thing I learned, this record outsold Freedom and Ragged Glory, which surprised me because Freedom was a pretty big record, Ragged Glory obviously, but I think people were ready for this to receive this acoustic Neil Young, and he was ready to come back to this sound. But it's funny you mentioned War of Man too. I got to say, I like that. What I like about this record is a couple of the songs talk about the earth, destruction. He's very big on that destruction of the planet, all of that stuff. War of Man makes me think of that because he's talking about war machines, gas and machinery destroying the wildlife and that sort of thing. Natural beauty, same thing. So there seems to be he's getting his message out there for sure.
Right.
Around that. And I'm not that political, and Neil's always been able to intertwine his political viewpoints into his music, into his actual songs. Except for maybe some of his more anger rock, I'll call it, of his later years, right? He would get pissed off, write some angry tunes, record it hard, release it. He has the backing and the finances to do that. So to get his message out that way. But in the older days, I found a lot of his stuff would be very political, but in a subtle way with his songwriting. So that's how I feel about War of Man. I actually like it. I think it has a good sound, but
Oh yeah, it's a great song, but that's one thing I don't like Natural Beauty and Mother Earth, which something that he did a lot. He finished each album with a environmental message, which is a great message, but I just
feels out of place to you, maybe.
Songs, I would like to hear something else bookend it more of. I hate to sound selfish, but something more of what I would enjoy.
For sure, yeah. Totally.
But I understand what he's doing there, and he really wears his heart on his sleeve. He really does.
Yeah.
And that's something that he should be commended about. The next album that he will come out with, I got this one on cassette and on vinyl, but I kept it down there. I finally put all my vinyl where it belongs this weekend. It took me almost 2 hours. All these shows that we do, they just been piling up. and now I finally put everything away. So I didn't touch any of the Bull amount. So Sleeps with Angels. This album is so different. It's a Crazy Horse album, but it makes you respect Crazy Horse even more because they don't play like Crazy Horse. They play very moody. They do peace movements. They play what each song needs. They're not just grunging out the songs. They're being very subtle with almost every different instrument that they play on here, and it's fantastic what they do. Will, what do you think about Sleeps with Angels? An album people really don't talk about. The only time they really talk about this is saying, "Oh well, it was dedicated to Kurt Cobain."
Right.
Yeah. Kurt Cobain passed away April of '94, and this was released in October of '94 or August.
Yeah, I think you're right. October. Yeah.
October?
Yeah.
August.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Of '94. So okay. It was a very, I think he was the first one to put anything out with the memory of Cobain because it was only about 4 or 5 months apart.
Yeah. Yeah. So, no, it's good. It's very true. And what I read was he retitled this after the passing of Kurt Cobain because Cobain had made a reference to Like a Hurricane, the lyrics from Like a Hurricane, if I remember correctly, in his suicide note. So he had a lot of these songs already ready. Like the album was all more or less in production and ready to go. But I don't know what I was checking to see what the original title was, but I couldn't find it. So that's why it became Sleeps with Angels. I had to revisit this because this was my road CD for a number of years. I used to take this on road trips. I used to travel to the U.S. to Bloomington, Illinois from Canada for business and stuff. And I would stop in Battle Creek, Michigan. It was the halfway point, and I'd stay. So this was in my car. And so this one I remember very well. And I hadn't listened to it until this week for quite a few years. I had to revisit it. But it's different. This album is very different. There's some, like you said, it doesn't feel like a Crazy Horse record, but it is Crazy Horse, and they're doing some unique stuff on here. There are some interesting songs for sure, and each song's a little different. I don't get the like Prime of Life comes to mind. I like that very much, and Western Hero also has a unique sound to it. Change Your Mind feels like that's probably the one that jumps out more like a classic Crazy Horse piece, longer piece. Obviously, it's got that jam to it. And from a songwriting perspective, my two favorites are Safeway Cart and Trans Am. And they're just unique pieces. And I don't know if this record got radio play when it came out. Maybe Piece of Crap. I don't ever recall hearing Piece of Crap on the radio, but it's possible on some of the rock stations. But I don't recall. Maybe Change Your Mind a little bit. Sleeps with Angels probably got some radio play, but it's just a very unique record. I won't say it flows, but for what it is, it's pretty cool. It's just very different, and it requires a couple of listens to really take it all in. There's a lot going on in this record. He's making a lot of different, positions and statements, sort of things. So. Yeah. I like it. It's not in my top, but you know what? I do like it, and I enjoyed going back and checking it out again. So, in fact, I'm going to leave it out so I can take it on my next road trip because it's been a few years. So, go ahead, Al. Yeah.
Sleeps with Angels. What you think about it?
Oh well, yeah. Revisiting this album. Oh, the funny thing about this album is that back then. I'm sure, I don't know if any of you guys belong to Columbia House. I used to belong to Columbia House, BMG, whatever. And, I know, like, people scammed them to get the whatever, the 8 CDs for the penny or whatever. But I was actually one of those that kind of held on. Like, I got my albums, and then I actually held on. I bought the 3 required ones because when you did that, then they would give you like these insane deals. Like they would send you catalogs, and they would have a section in there with like 99-cent albums or CDs at the time.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah,
90s was all CDs now. It wasn't vinyl anymore. That's why a lot of this 90s vinyl, these original pressings go for a lot of money because vinyl wasn't, it was a dead issue. Nobody was really buying a lot of vinyl. And if you did get the vinyl, they were pretty much pressed up in limited quantities. So I remember me and my brother getting the Pearl Jam Versus vinyl when it first came out. And we have like the original pressings of it. And we each bought one, and I kept mine sealed. He opened his, and then we made a cassette from it. Because I remember they released the vinyl like a month before the CD. It was like so we went and bought the vinyl and then put it on the cassette. But anyway, I belonged to Columbia House. They used to have a 99-cent or $1 CD or whatever section, and I remember this album was one of the CDs. It was Sleeps with Angels. So I'm like, all right, cool. Let me get this one, man. I'm a Neil Young fan. I got it, and I remember listening, and it was a Crazy Horse album, but it was more subdued, like you guys were saying. It's different. It wasn't like the balls out, plugged in, like they're jamming in the garage type of album. It's like they're a bit more subdued. There's a lot more kind of like it's not just a guitar, bass, drums kind of thing. They were adding like different instruments, on a lot of these songs, and it's a much more layered album. And I know like Neil Young plays like flute on it or whatever, and there's like Wurlitzer for piano and Oberheim and all that sorts of stuff on there. So it was different for Crazy Horse album. They were, I guess, as a band, Crazy Horse, they were maybe I guess experimenting or something or something like that. So yeah, and I remember the whole Sleeps with Angels was kind of dedicated to Kurt Cobain because I remember he had passed away a couple months before. I remember Neil doing what was it on VMAs or something. I remember he did the Neil and Damage Done. I think I remember seeing on it was right after Kurt died or something, and I don't think it was VMAs, but I think it was some award show. And he did Neil and Damage Done and dedicated it to Kurt. It may have been a VMAs. VMAs are usually in like September. I remember they're usually like after the summer. They usually air those. Back when the VMAs, Video Music Awards, MTV were actually good.
Oh yeah,
right. Like good.
Yeah. Man, the VMAs for a while there were better than the Grammys. They were.
Oh my god, man! I used to tape the VMAs. I have like VHS tapes where I taped every VMA like for years.
Yeah.
And I remember the whole Pearl Jam and Neil doing Rockin' the Free World and stuff.
Yeah.
That was like famous and stuff. But anyway, going back to this, yeah, it was revisiting the album was like I know I have the CD packed again. I have the CD packed away somewhere. The original CD that I got from Columbia House. But I had to pull up the YouTube and I listened to the album on YouTube and I was like, wow, I remember this, I like the album, you know what I mean? It wasn't on par with Ragged Glory to me or like, some of the other ones, but like Will said, man, you took a couple. I remember getting the CD and it took me a couple listens to kind of get into it. But I'm gonna go back to this one and kind of revisit it again, listen to it a little more. I only gave it a cursory like once or twice listen to prepare for the show, but you guys went through the songs, so I mean, it was. I think one of my favorite ones was Safeway Cart, like what Will said. That was a real good one. The title track, I love that one. And it's got like this melancholy, kind of subdued sound that you don't expect from Crazy Horse. Like I said, Crazy Horse, you expect them again. You expect them to be in the garage, just kind of jamming out. But this is different for them, which was good. And Neil, like Andy said earlier, Neil doesn't look back. He just kind of keeps going forward, and he marches by the beat of his own drum. So, but this was a good one, man. It was, like I said again, man. '90s Neil, he was pretty much fucking. It's good quality stuff. So, So go ahead, Andy, man.
Yeah, and also something that we don't talk about much about Crazy Horse are their backing vocals, and they really do a good job on Sleeps with Angels on this whole album.
I think everybody, I think everybody in Crazy Horse sings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, you know, I gotta mention. Sorry, Andy, go ahead.
Yeah. No. What's up, Will?
No, I was just gonna say, going back to I'll mention Safeway Cardigans. One of the lyrics on that, like that song, just has a feel. It has an ambience to it. The lyrics kill me on this song. I always loved it. It's one of the reasons this one always jumps out. Like a Safeway cart rolling down the street, like a sandal mark on the Savior's feet. Just keep rolling on. It's a ghetto dawn. You know, you just want to be driving. It's like remember the opening of The Sopranos when he's driving home. That tune is so classic, and it just feels he's driving through, I guess, Chicago or wherever he is. Man, it's just
Jersey.
New Jersey. Thank you. That's right. And you know that. That's right. Exactly. It's just
the funny thing, like, you know, the opening scene. I'm like, yeah, I know where that's at. I know where that place is at. It's like so funny, dude.
That's funny. My sister's in New Jersey. Actually, she's in Paramus.
So okay, yeah. Paramus is, from where I'm at, Paramus is probably about 35, 40 minutes from me. So.
Oh, that's not far at all. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. But this song just feels like I want to be driving through a city somewhere, you know, this song. And it just, and I remember driving through Chicago. That's why I mentioned that, listening to this tune in the car when I was making my trips to the U.S. So, and usually it was either in a snowstorm or it was early morning or late at night or whatever. It's just great record, great song. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Andy, I cut you off.
Oh, no, it's no problem at all. And if you listen very closely, you can hear a couple melodies being shared with different songs, you know, with different
that's right.
That are transferred to different songs. And also, a lot of these songs, one of the first times, they're not political, they're more social.
Yeah.
So socially aware lyrics of what was going on at the time of the 1990s, especially in the mid 90s. There was so much going on that, of course, it's nothing like today. No, but we start to open our eyes a little bit more to what was going on around us, out in the streets and in the schoolyards. And Neil Young talked a lot about that on this album. It took me a while. This isn't one of my favorites because of the music, but if you really sit down and really listen to it without any expectations, it really unfolds itself as being a beautiful album. And beautiful is not something that you think of when there's a Crazy Horse attached to it. And that's something you really need to appreciate Crazy Horse for, is doing what they did on this album. And that's what made this album. That's what set the mood for these socially aimed lyrics. It was, and I think it was a triumph for Neil Young and Crazy Horse, even though it wasn't as popular or as a big seller, but you know, it did its job for what it was supposed to do. Now, the fourth album he came out with in the 90s was along with the Young Uns. I'm talking about Mirrorball. Mirrorball with Pearl Jam. But make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, this is a pure Neil Young album. You wouldn't even know that Pearl Jam's on there without being told, because pretty much they took the place of Crazy Horse and played like Crazy Horse, so you wouldn't even know unless you're told. And this wasn't the only thing they did together. They did a Pearl Jam Merkin Ball, which is a single and a B-side with Neil on there, and it's a Pearl Jam song. You wouldn't know that Neil Young's on it without being told. So they both gave respect to each other as artists. And this was his highest charting album in a very long time because of the name Pearl Jam was attached to it. What did you think about the album? Well,
yeah, this is one of my favorite hard rocking records for many, many years. And I got to be honest, because I wasn't really into the grunge movement, I never really got into Pearl Jam, but I have a more respect for them now because you guys actually have introduced me to some of their music. But I'm aware of what Neil did with them, for them, what they did for him. And, I was reading about it. He was looking for almost like not another Crazy Horse, but he'd like to work with other bands to bring in that influence, right? And on this album, and I'll show you, I have a copy, and I got to share this with you because this is another one that's super hard to find. I've been looking for that for years. This is a German bootleg. I could never find an original that I could afford because they're in the $300 range, right? Give or take.
That's the one. That's the one that I pulled up, and it's like $250 or something.
Yeah.
That's all for.
Yeah, it's up there like Weld, right? Like Weld is another one I don't have, and I can't justify $300 for a record. I'm sorry, I just I can't do it. So that's a German bootleg, and it's just got basic white covers inside, but it does have the they did a pretty good job because it's got the original package, I guess, that came with for bootleg. It's pretty good. And I have the CD as well. The CD is the one I just got this a couple of years ago, but the CD I've had since probably when it came out, really since the 90s. But Andy, you have an original there?
Yeah, I got this one when it had came out as well.
Okay, nice.
And it's got the lyric sheet to it as well.
Okay,
nice. I would on that, man.
Yeah, it's like a crazy lyric sheet because everything is just jumbled in there together.
All in there.
Yeah, I'm sure it got reissued at one point, but to have the original one, that's great, man.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I love this record when it came out. I still love it. It's a hard rocking record. I think I played it so much over the years I burnt out on it. So it's not something I jump to all the time. I have a couple of tracks that are in my playlist. But I was reading about it, and it was recorded live in the studio.
Wow. Yeah.
They didn't piece it together. And Peace and Love is the only song that was co-written with Vedder and Neil. So that was interesting. And the other thing I thought was interesting, Neil was trying to kind of bring together some of the cynicism of the 90s. And so he wanted to bring Pearl Jam in to capture that and the peace and love movement of the 60s and combine the two into a record. So I think, with that in mind, he was very successful. And the other thing I got to show you, I've got a bootleg of that concert. They did an 11-day tour in Europe.
Oh,
and
wow.
There are videos on YouTube, and they're on my page too. You have to dig deep, but they're out there. And they're very good quality videos for crappy old 90s videos, but they're very good quality. They were recorded well, and they sound really good. And then a couple of years ago, I managed to find this, which is, I guess, one of those tours or one of those sessions. I'm not sure if this is in Europe or what, but it's a bootleg of that. It's a BBC, or sorry, not a BBC. It's a broadcast quality bootleg, whatever that means. 95. So I managed to get that from
probably a radio broadcast or a soundboard.
Yeah, exactly. Now this one is interesting. It's a soundboard, exactly. Pearl Jam and Neil Young. This one's labeled Pearl Jam and Neil Young. It's actually pretty good. I don't have the actually that's on my YouTube page too if you guys want to hear it. It's got a lot of the songs from the record, and then it's got a couple of Neil's tracks on here as well. I was listening to it before we connected tonight, but anyway, going back to the album, it's just a kick-ass record. There's so many good songs. X is probably my favorite, and Peace and Love. Fallen Angel is pretty cool. Sorry, it's Fallen Angel. Yes, Fallen Angel is one of the little pieces, short pieces on this.
Yeah.
I don't have the track list here. Anyway, long story short, it's a good record, and it's up there as far as Neil Young hard rock records go. And like I said, I was happy to get that bootleg when I got it because it sounds really good on vinyl too. And my CD is very old, so it's a bit torn to bits. So anyway, go ahead, Al.
Holy shit, dude! Whenever I visited this album, I was like, wow, I completely forgot about it for a long time. Man, I don't think I had listened to this album since like the 90s, but I remember the whole Neil Young and Pearl Jam coming together, and that was like a big deal because Pearl Jam was the biggest band in the world by that point, man. They were like in '95, they were on top of the world. It's like, it was like they could do no wrong, and them and Neil coming together. Now revisiting the album, I was like, wow, it was like Andy said, it was like Pearl Jam was kind of channeling their crazy horse, you know what I mean? Like, but listening to it and being a big Pearl Jam fan, my brother was even a bigger one than me. You know, it's still mistakenly you can hear the Pearl Jam in there. You know, you can hear them jamming and stuff like that, and um they're just cut out of that, like, that kind of that crazy horse cloth. You know what I mean? I remember Peace and Love getting airplay here in the New York area. I remember hearing that on the radio, and plus Downtown as well. Both of those songs got a lot of airplay. The cool thing about Downtown is he references like Zeppelin in there, which is kind of cool, The Zeppelin during their concerts, they'd have a mirror ball. I mean, if everybody, I'm sure everybody remembers Song Me the Same, seeing a mirror ball on there. And he references like Jimmy Page and all that. So it's kind of cool being a big Zeppelin fan, and I am hearing that. But yeah, I mean, revisiting the album again, I was like, wow, this is fucking great album. It's one that I really need to like dig out and really like, let's throw it in the CD player in the car, go like, listen to it on the way to work or something, But you guys covered it, man. I mean, it's like, yeah, the Merkin Ball too. Yeah, I never got Merkin Ball, but I think my brother got it because my brother belonged to the 10 Club back in the 90s, and they used to put out like these 45s and send it to the club members, and he used to get like these 45s all the time. He may have gotten Merkin Ball. I don't remember, but I'll have to ask him. But I know he used to get like, because Pearl Jam was all about vinyl, even back in the 90s. They were all about like the analog stuff and all that. So it was kind of cool being like in their. My brother was in their 10 Club, and I remember they'd always send them, every year, or even like half a year, they'd send him like a 45 of something special, and he may have gotten Merkin Ball because there was only 2 songs, so he may have gotten a 45 of that. I'll have to ask him, man. I know he probably still has all that stuff, so. But yeah, man, I mean, I remember me and him like listening to the album. For him, he was in heaven because he was like the biggest Neil Young and Pearl Jam fan, so the two of them coming together was like heaven for him, man. You know what I mean? So, but it was a kick-ass album, man. I really enjoyed it, and revisiting it, it's just, Brendan O'Brien produced it, which was Pearl Jam's producer at the time, and I love the production of it. I mean, it's just clearly like that 90s dry kind of in your face production, and like Will was saying, they just got in the studio, just jammed out, and came up with these songs, which I wish a lot of bands would do that nowadays. I mean, everything sounds so fucking clinical and perfect, and it's like
polished.
Like these albums don't have personalities anymore nowadays. So everything's all digital, and I mean, even if you record digitally, you can still have personality. You got to do it correctly. I understand like recording the tape now is expensive, and that's probably why no bands really do it anymore, besides from a handful. But I mean, I just wish bands would just sketch out some songs, go in the studio for a friggin' week, 2 weeks, hammer them out, and just
jam it
come
out.
up with something. And if you don't like it, don't put it out. You know what I mean? Just at least you tried it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of everything being so everything being so combed over, and you got this drum beat was not good, so let's let's cut and paste this onto there, and it's just so just jam out, dude.
That's why I gotta say, it's why I like the blues records I have, like all the old blues records that I'm into, like Albert King, Johnny Winter, these guys, SRV, these guys, they would go into the studio with the band, they set everybody up, piano, the whole thing, and record it on the floor, live on the floor. 2 tape, burn the record, away it would go, like the old Stax label.
Yeah.
Some amazing blues records there. Yeah, I love it.
I got to give props to like a band like Black Crowes, because they just recently came out with an album. I think it was 1972. It was all covers from like that year, and they're like one of those bands that still records analog, which is really awesome. And that's like one of the bands I still love too, man. They're they're a band that's like all real and they still do it the old school way, which is great.
Yeah.
I mean, they were like one of the best concerts I saw last year, man. You know, Black Rose. So they still have that spirit, you know, that old school spirit. So, and they're gonna go on tour with Aerosmith, which is gonna be a great double bill. So.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you were gonna go to that. I figured you might, so that'll be pretty awesome.
I don't know because looking at the itinerary, by midsummer I should be living in Florida, and I see like they're not gonna be coming to Florida. But I mean, I feel like this is gonna be if this is gonna be truly their farewell tour, it's gonna last probably 2-3 years. You know, they're gonna go
right.
gonna go around the world a couple of times. You know.
Yeah, for sure. They're a big draw. Yeah, they're gonna stretch it out for sure. Hey, let me ask you. Oh, sorry, I got to ask you a question. What's the drummer's name in Pearl Jam? Because I was reading.
Jack, on this album?
Yes.
On this album? Jack Irons.
Okay,
so he kicks ass on this, man.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the best drummers Pearl Jam ever had. No disrespect to Matt Cameron from Soundgarden, but I like Matt better in Soundgarden.
Okay.
Pearl Jam. I feel like Jack Irons and David Brucey, the drummer before this, were the best drummers in Pearl Jam. You know, so. But anyway.
Interesting. No, I was curious because Neil, I was reading, he was blown away with this guy when they recorded. He said every track, every recording, every run through, the guy was just bringing it. And he was totally jazzed with him. Yeah.
He used to be the drummer in Red Hot Chili Peppers. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool.
Back before. Back before Chad Smith became a drummer.
Yeah.
I think he did the first two albums.
Yeah.
The self-titled and the Freaky Styley album.
Okay.
Great, Andy.
Yeah, but this album, you know, I wasn't too sure who drummed on this because it was in '95, so it was kind of the middle of Irons going out and Cameron coming in. And stuff like that.
Well, it was right when David Brucey was, you know, if he was fired or he left or whatever. And because I think this album come out before? I think this album came out before No Code, the Pearl Jam album No Code.
It was after Vitalogy and before No Code.
Okay, so Vitalogy was David Brucey drummed on that album. No Code was Jack Irons. So it must have been when Jack Irons first came into the band when they did this album. So.
Oh wow, it might have even been his first project with them then.
I think it was.
But it's true what Will was saying. Of course, it's true. Will said it. But Neil Young did say that Jack Irons worked his ass off in every part of this album, and you can hear it. You know, you can really hear the band working really hard. You can hear Pearl Jam being very excited to be playing with Neil Young, but didn't let it go to their heads or over their heads. Pearl Jam just kept the beat going, and Neil Young took over and does his Neil Young stuff. And man, it was just a great album. I was kind of like your brother, Al. I was about to, what, Neil Young and Pearl Jam together? Are you kidding me? So I went out there and I grabbed what I could. I got that Mercantile on CD. I wanted to get everything I could from these guys, but fantastic that you got bootlegs of this. Well, that's
like I said, it's I haven't listened to this in a while, but it's on my page. I can share it with you guys if you're interested. Just like I said, I got a lot of stuff there, but it's pretty good actually, and the quality's quite good. Just add maybe a little EQ, a little bass to it, but it's, you know what, it sounds good for a bootleg. So. For soundboard. So
and my favorite song on here was not mentioned, but Throw Your Hatred Down. Love Throw Your Hatred Down.
Yes, that's a great song. Yeah.
And also they do another version on that live Flowers, and what's it called again? I forgot the
name. Noise and Flowers.
Noise and Flowers with Willie Nelson's sons.
Yeah, with Promise. Yeah.
With the Promise of the New. And man, they jammed the hell out of that song. I think it takes up a whole side, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a crazy piece, for sure.
Yeah,
they really stretch it. It's like 11 minutes long, or something like that. Or
exactly, they stretch it out really jammed.
They do a good job of that,
And the songs on here are just amazing. I needed I needed to pull it up on my phone, but I'm the ocean. I think that's the song where he has that great line that I love. People my age don't do the things that I do. Man, ain't that the truth? But I love Downtown. I think it's fantastic. But also that little 46-second piece, what happened yesterday when he's on that pump organ. I can't forget what happened yesterday, and he's got that voice of his that's so haunting and so regrettable about the past, and then it goes straight to peace and love and throw your hatred down and scenery, and those are just jams, man. They just go at it, and at first it took me a while because I was expecting to hear more Pro Jam in there. And I know, like Al said, that there are Pro Jam elements in there, but it gets lost in the Pro Jam Crazy Horse sound that they were doing homage to. That at first it took me a while to get into this album because it wasn't a big hit with me right away because I was looking for that Vitalogy kind of sound. Mm-hmm. And instead, it's a 100% Neil Young album.
Yeah, 100%. For sure.
And that's why it is the way that it is. And I love it. I love it now. There's so much great stuff on here.
Yeah, it's really good I found the songs finally. I found them in the lyrics here buried in here. They kind of jump out at you now. I can see the titles.
So Marking Ball was released in 95 with the tracks I Got Ed and Long Road. Those are the two tracks on there.
Okay.
And I Got Ed, it's got that great line on it. I've got memories, I've got shit. That's such a great line, man. Eddie Vedder wrote both those songs, but it was an outtake, is what I read. Is that Marking Ball were outtakes from Mirrorball. So this was a big accomplishment. Again, the 90s were pretty much almost ruled by Neil Young. So, someone from the 70s. I mean, no one from the 70s had this kind of output in the 90s. Nobody.
No.
That I can think of. Maybe Aerosmith, along with their albums that they released in the 90s when they got renewed, rejuvenation, but nothing like this.
I say Rush as well.
Yeah, Rush too. Yeah,
Rush for sure. They obviously they had some disappeared for a while. Late mid 90s, obviously, but late 90s when all that stuff started and then came back in 2002. But yeah, for sure.
But a lot of these bands that have longevity do that. They've got their great 10 years, then they try to sound like what's new today or what's the sound of that moment.
Yeah.
And they fail at it. And then they go back to their bread and butter of what their fans loved, and they come back.
Yeah.
So kudos for Neil for doing Mirrorball. Last but not least, this album is going to be Neil Young with Crazy Horse again for the name of his ranch, Broken Arrow. What do you think, Will?
Yeah, it's funny. This is one I don't have. I didn't own, so I had to go and get it on online and revisit it. But if I could have sworn I had this on CD, but I guess I never bought it. I don't have it on vinyl, so I had to go back and listen to it. And I did that today. Actually, I listened to it twice. It's a great record. The first three songs we mentioned earlier are hard rockers. These are pure crazy. They're long. They're all over 7 minutes, 8 minutes. They are pure Crazy Horse songs, and really, really good songs. This is actually the 10th LP with Crazy Horse, which surprised me. I thought, they kind of had more. I didn't count, but and I guess on the vinyl edition of this, there was an extra track called Interstate, which was an outtake of the Ragged Glory sessions. So I don't have the vinyl. Andy, maybe you have the vinyl of this record?
I don't. I've got the CD to it.
Okay, so maybe Al does. If not, so we might be able to expect that track to show up on this Crazy Horse Ragged Glory 2 session or recording that we talked about, if that's an outtake of those sessions, right? So that'd be kind of cool. My favorite songs: Big Time, Loose Change, Slip Away, first three really hard rockers. Scattered also, which is the fifth track. Scattered, Let's Think About Living. That's a good song also. It feels like a Crazy Horse song as well. Not as long as the first three, but the album, it's funny. This album is funny. It really kicks into gear with those first three songs. Then it goes into Changing Highways, which is a nice little tune. Mm-hmm. Then you get another Crazy Horse piece to Scattered. And then it goes into This Town and Music Arcade. And it kind of lost me a little bit here. They're not bad songs, but I'd have to go back. They're not memorable to me, but I'd have to go back and listen to them. And then it closes out the record with Baby What You Want to Do to Me, What You Want to Do by Jimmy Reed. And that's sort of a grungy bar feel blues type tune. But I think it's kind of cool. It just feels like you're in a bar listening to any blues band doing a kind of a Crazy Horse sloppy feel to a blues tune. But it's good. It's good. I like it. And I think it closes out the album pretty good. So, I got to say, like, I enjoyed my revisit of this. And it is something I probably will listen to again. And I might even add it to my collection because I was surprised that it wasn't there. It's something I would take in my car as well. Just throw it on and listen to it, or even at home, just throw it on while I'm working or just hanging out, have a drink and chill out to it. It's a good record for that. So, yeah. I will say also the first three songs, Big Time, Loose Change, Slip Away, just has those great Neil Young storytelling elements. You just feel like you're somewhere else and you just want to, there's reference to a seascape and a harbor and the harbor lights and all that stuff, and very, very cool lyrics. I don't have them in front of me, but just you just want to listen to it on a beach or something. It feels like that, or drive to a beach in an old black car, just like the song. Something like that, right? So That's my take on it. I like this record. I give this like a 7 out of 10. Yeah.
Well, what did you think about it?
Well, yeah, surprisingly, I'm like Will. I didn't have this in my collection. This is kind of like as the '90s went on, I for some reason I didn't pick this one up, but revisiting it, actually, still going back to the Columbia House thing, the live CD that was recorded on this tour, The Year of the Horse, which came out the year after it. It didn't have it only had Big Time from this album on there, but I remember it was one of those 99-cent CDs again. I picked up The Year of the Horse, the live album, which was from this tour. But I never got this album. But like revisiting it again, another Crazy Horse. Like shit, man. Almost every album he put out in the '90s was a Crazy Horse album. Barring what was it, 3 out of the 5 albums were Crazy Horse albums. And he ends the '90s off strong too, man. Listening to this album, it was really, really, really good, man. I don't remember really listening to it, but going back to it, listening to it, it was a great album, I thought, and again, hence why I think Neil in the '90s was one of his strongest decades of output. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I don't have the vinyl version of it or whatever. I would have the extra song. But I'm gonna go out and buy the CD of this and get it. I don't know how much the vinyl goes. I'm sure that goes for a lot of money too. Just like all the vinyl, unless he reissued it or something. But I don't know. I'll have to kind of research it. But yeah, it's a great album too, man. I don't have much more to say about it. I didn't really do a deep dive in it. It was just like the last time I really listened to it. I only got to listen to it here maybe once or twice, and that was really it. But it's one that I'll go back and revisit again. So. I like when Neil and Crazy Horse are together. I think it's like peanut butter and jelly to me. They go perfect together. So go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, it's kind of like when Neil Young does some solo stuff, and then when he comes back to Crazy Horse. It's like a big reunion. Like they missed each other. They try to make up for lost time. This to go back to what Will has been saying about this album, the first 3 tracks, it makes you think, man, is this going to be another Ragged Glory? You know, it just had the kind of feel, but then it does lose its gusto with the three shortened tracks. So that's what I wanted to say about this album. And the last track, the live version of Jimmy Reed's song, you know, you could tell that it was recorded, you know, live because of the sound of it. It doesn't sound. It sounds like it was bootlegged in a way.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Or recorded by a fan that was out there. So, but that's all that I had to say about this one. But Big Time, of course, is the winner of my favorite song on here. You know, I'm still living in the dream we had. For me, it's not over. I love that line because then it leads straight into the guitar solos that he will do. So, so that concludes what the first part of us going through these albums. So now let's rank them. Let's rank these 5. Will, how are you going to do your 5?
Yeah, for sure. I got to say, I just checked. I just want to jump in there. Ali asked about the price on Broken Arrow. I was just looking on Discogs. A 96 original press, medium price, $269 Canadian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm shocked actually. I had no idea this thing was up there with the mirror balls and the welds and stuff, right?
Again, it's the 90s pressings. They go fetch a lot of money, man.
Yeah, you know, that's crazy.
Vinyl was dead in that decade, and you know it wasn't pressed like 1 million copies were not pressed. If anything, maybe 100,000 copies, if that, 50,000. Very limited, you know. So
crazy, eh? So, so Andy, do you want my number 5, or do you want all of them? 5
all
to
5
1?
Of them. Let's just do all 5.
Okay. Number 5, I chose Sleeps with Angels, 94. And just because in the ranking, based on my last couple listens and my revisits, that's kind of where it fell for me. Although it's a great record, you know, there's not a bad record in this decade, as we've mentioned, right? So number 3, I chose Mirrorball, surprisingly, because if you had asked me a couple of years ago, it would have been probably like number 2, or even number 1, maybe 10 years ago. I just was seriously into that record. So.
Wait, hold on.
What was your number 4?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say?
Yeah.
Where am I? What did I give you? I gave you my 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Let me give you my number 4. Yeah. Broken Arrow. So yeah, I jumped ahead. Broken Arrow is my number 4. Just because again it falls into my ranking. But it's an excellent record. My number 3 is Mirrorball. So it is up there mid-range because it's such a good record, and I probably played that more than the lower 2. So where are we? 3, 2, number 2, and this is where it got hard for me. It was between Ragged Glory and Harvest Moon. Obviously, I ended up going with Ragged Glory as my number 2, and Harvest Moon is my number 1. And that was tough. I debated on this because they're both neck and neck records, you know, they're both stellar records, but they're so different. Obviously, The Horse and Neil, acoustic Neil, you know, folky Neil, you know, and then obviously Ragged Glory is just pure Horse. So that being said, the thing that won Harvest Moon as my number 1 was the fact that it was my wedding song also. So I had to go with that as number 1. So that's my ranking. No.
Oh shit. What's your ranking like?
Okay, so my number 5 is going to be Sleeps with Angels. Again, like Will said, there's no bad album in this decade, but if I'm going to rank them, I'm going to put them somewhere. So Sleeps with Angels will be number 5, but again, great album. My number 4 is going to be Broken Arrow. Another great album, but again, I gotta spend a little more time with it, you know. My number 3 is going to be Harvest Moon. You know, number 3. Number 2 is going to be Mirrorball. I just love the Pearl Jam Neil Young collaboration. And then Ragged Glory, man. I mean, he started off the decade like just with a bang, and to me, it's still a kick-ass album. I could throw that on and just fucking, just jam out to it, dude. I could. It's one of those things, man. Because I play guitar myself, and sometimes you just, it's like, I love my guitar heroes. I love my Eddie Van Halen, my Randy Rhoads and all that. But just sometimes, man, you just want to turn the fuzz up, and just kind of just play some loose chords and don't worry about like if I got a bum note or something. It's just so cool to just turn it up real loud, man, and just fucking feedback and all that shit, dude. And Ragged Glory is the epitome of that, man. Like, just that's what Crazy Horse is about. Just volume and looseness and jamming and just, having fun, man. So that, to me, that's my number one, Ragged Glory.
The way I'm going to rank them, number 5 is going to be Sleeps with Angels, just because it's a great album, but it's not what I want to hear when I want to hear Crazy Horse.
Yeah.
Right. My number 4 is going to be Broken Arrow. Right. Number 3 is going to be Mirrorball. I was going back and forth on this one between 2 and 3 with Mirrorball, but I finished at number 2. Number 3. Mirrorball is number 3. My number 2 is going to be Harvest Moon. Harvest Moon. It's a beautiful album, but nothing was better than Ragged Glory. It was my number 1.
Yeah.
It's
killer album.
It's a killer album, man.
Yeah.
It's just,
I mean, that album is like, when somebody comes up to you and is like, recommend me some Neil Young albums, that would definitely probably be in one of the recommendations. I mean, a lot of people like, it'd be 70s, it's gotta be 70s Neil or whatever. I'm like, that fucking thing holds right up with it, man. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, it's like Crazy Horse Records have a separate library of their own, and like Rust, Live Rust, Rust Never Sleeps, and then you jump to the 80s, the 90s, and it's just and Ragged Glory's in there. Like that would be you have to hear this one.
That's one of the one of the Zuma and
you're right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, when it comes to Crazy Horse. So, guys, thanks a lot for joining me on revisiting Neil Young of the 1990s. This was great. We only talked about 5 albums, but man, what great 5 albums they were and still are, because they still hold up to today. Really good stuff. We should be doing the 2000s next week. No, I'm sorry, next month is when we'll touch on Neil Young of the 2000s.
I'm gonna have to do a deep dive into that decade. So
me too.
I like this stuff because it makes me revisit albums like I may have never even heard or haven't heard in a long time. I get to be quite honest with you, I don't really know much about Neil Young in the 2000s because I kind of fell off on him. So this will be good for me to catch up on some of those albums. So I know he did an album with Booker T and MGs. I remember him doing a tour with them too. Again, like with the Pearl Jam thing, he latched onto like another band and did a project with them. So that's kind of cool, man. Before we go, I want to thank Will. I want to thank you for that Rush Hemispheres, the Red Vinyl.
Oh yeah, hey, no problem.
I really appreciate that, man. You're awesome, and Andy, the Permanent Waves 8-track, that was really cool. I mean, even though I sold my 8-track player off, I like to have the Rush 8-tracks just for a collection. When I move into my new house in my garage, there's gonna be like a Rush wall. It's probably gonna go on. I'll probably frame it and put it on the wall or something. So
very nice. Very nice.
Thank you for that stuff.
The stuff you gave me, I don't know if you can see it, but it's up here, the cards and stuff for my music cabinet. The beer can is in the other cabinet right now with the bottles, but yeah, that's the stuff you sent me. And Andy, the record I'm sending you in a cassette, I haven't got it out yet. My my apologies. But I'll ship it out in the next few days, so you can expect that. But yeah, man, it's all good. So
I'm excited.
Yeah, I was gonna say thank you guys for having me as well, and it's always a pleasure to talk music and Neil and different bands. And like Al said, I learn more about stuff I haven't heard from you guys than I do from anywhere else, right? So I get info, I make notes. I love my notes, and I make
you know.
Yeah.
That's why I love doing these podcasts, man. I'm always discovering stuff, that fell through the cracks or whatever. So this is great.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you again. Thank you, Will. I appreciate you guys.
So we'll probably do the 2000s next month. I was just counting. He had 7 albums between 2000 and 2009. So that was a big output.
You got to admit, the man is prolific, man.
Yeah, he keeps on. Hey, man, he keeps on moving forward. And when I was looking through these albums, these were some of my favorites. We're talking about Living with War, Prairie Wind, Greendale. Are You Passionate was the one that you're thinking about with Booker T and the MGs, and also Silver and Gold, which he released in 2000, which was the first time I saw him on that tour. That was the first time I saw him, and it was a Neil Young solo. So it was just him on the stage with guitars and the water pump organ and the piano. So that was really cool. So we will revisit Neil Young of the 2000s sometime in June. Next week on the Black Spinner Circle, it's going to be a special Mother's Day. So I will have my mom and my cousin on here tomorrow, next week for their Mother's Day. They're going to be doing the top 10 songs of the 1970s. So I'm going to turn a little poppy so that we can all relate to the same songs. I don't want to get to Black Sabbath. I got to keep it. Gladys Knight and the Pimp with Midnight Train to Georgia.
Hey, Andy, I gotta mention one thing I read today, and I don't think this is going to happen, but Al, you might have seen it in some of the Rush groups, but there's a rumor going. Andy Curran, was interviewed recently and casually mentioned that he'd love to see Geddy and Alex get back together and jam and play. So now the media got a hold of that little piece of information, and it's all blown up that Rush is talking 50th tour next year or something, and this shit's floating around again. No, if they get together and jam and do some one-off shows, it won't be Rush. They're not going to go with the Rush name. They've been very clear about that, but I wouldn't mind seeing them. They've done a couple of, they did the Taylor Hawkins thing, and it was good to see them get together and jam again and stuff.
I think Geddy's going to be busy with his book this year because it's going to be going out. So I could see him doing like another maybe book tour.
Yeah.
And we'll see next year, man. Next year is the 50th anniversary since the first album. So
that's right. Yeah.
I don't know, man. We'll see, dude. I never say never, but
never say never.
For me personally, I'd love to hear them collaborate again and do some stuff, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if they did some kind of one-off solo show where they played a lot of their solo tunes from their various solo records, it would be, it would be like a B-side thing. But yeah, it'd be great.
I mean, I'd love to see them do like a Taylor Hawkins type of thing and get like different drummers to do different songs, man. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Toronto, and have one big show and.
For sure.
So,
that would be totally cool. Yeah, they could bring in like Portnoy and a few other big. There's a lot of drummers out there that. That would be an interesting thing to see. So anyway, whether it'll happen or not, but it's going around now. It's all over the place. So it's like, Rush back on tour. Like I saw an ad on a site today that they had created a banner, Rush 50th tour, and I'm like, oh my god, people, like, come on,
People. Not that shit, man. It's like whatever, man.
Yeah, like come on. If you know the band at all, they're it's not gonna be Rush, right? So anyway, just sharing.
But it'll be Rash.
Rash. That's right. Exactly.
But I guess y'all already answered what you two being Rush being y'all's favorite bands, what do y'all want to see happen? You want anything to happen at all, or just to walk away to the sunset?
Okay, for me, I support anything that Geddy and Alex want to do. I mean, it's their life. This is what they've done all their life. If they want to do something again together, I'm all for it, man. I'll support whatever they want to do. If they don't want to do anything, dude, they give me a lifetime of concerts and pleasure, you know, like music and stuff. So whatever they want to do, that's their life. It's their decision. You know, I know that they have the integrity that they're not, without Neil, it's not going to be called Rush. You know, I believe that they will still go down that road if they happen to do something together again. It's not going to be Rush, but I mean, they could be, you know, do something together, and I'm whatever, man. Yeah. There's a whole generation of people that have never seen Rush that are clamoring that they'd love to see something, but you know, whatever they do, man, I'll support them, man. It's their decision.
Yeah. So, I would agree. Yeah, no, I would agree with you 100%. Like whatever they do, and I would love to see them play live. Absolutely, the two of them, they're just phenomenal musicians.
But my big regret is my daughter was a bit too young on her farewell tour to go take her. You know, she's a teenager now. I'd love to take her to see some sort of Rush related, you know, thing. Even if Geddy did a solo tour, that'd be awesome. I think he would do very well if he did a solo tour.
Yeah, you know, much
for
like sure.
David Gilmour does, you know, the last few times that he did. Dude, trust me, there's enough Robin Rush fans where if Geddy played, he would fill them out. They've been away long enough now where there's a whole new generation of people that want to see Rush songs perform live. And if he did a solo tour, I'm there, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so for sure, me too. Same with Alex. I would see Alex live in either one of them. Watch them play again, and I'd pay money for that, no problem. It won't be Rush. They can't see that, like you said, they have too much integrity to call themselves Rush without Neil. That's not going to happen. But it could be some kind of Rush memorial or some kind of Rush tribute where they bring in drummers, other bands to play Rush. You know, something like that. Great. What I would love to see for me personally would be Geddy and Alex doing a show together where they bring in a band and they do their solo material. Like My Favorite Headache, Victor, stuff from Victor, and like just revisit all that shit. Could be like, because that like Victor, that was what, 25 years ago, 26 years ago. So you know, stuff like that. My Favorite Headache, that's 23 years old. So you know, stuff like that would be awesome. I like the Envy of None stuff. I like the way it sounds. I think I'm happy for Alex that he's found something new to do, and he's got some great Andy Curran obviously plays on that. Maya Wynn, I think her name is. She's a great singer. There's some beautiful tracks on there, like that last tune as a tribute to Neil that Alex wrote, the acoustic piece, Western Sunset. Beautiful piece, Andy. If you haven't heard that, check that out. The Envy of None album itself is really good. It's very, very different. It's not Rush. People hated it because a number of people went in thinking it's not Rush. It doesn't sound like Rush. Well, no, it's not fucking Rush. Of course it's not fucking Rush, you know. Anyway.
It reminded me of Garbage. The band Garbage is what it reminded me of.
Right. Okay.
Which isn't
bad. There's that grungy kind of techno feel, and I liked it for what it was. I enjoyed it. I played it back to back for a couple of weeks.
Maybe hit the nail right in the head, man. The first thought when I heard it, I was like, it reminds me of the band Garbage. Yeah, exactly. And I like that band too. So it was cool to hear that. So
but whatever, like you, Al, whatever they do, you know, if they want to get together and just jam the Rush hits with a couple of backup bands or drummers, whatever, I'm there. I love it. So it's fine by me.
I got one more question for you, Will. Did you get the Signals box set or no?
I got the Signals picture disc.
Okay.
That's all. I didn't buy the box set just because I couldn't justify the cost this year, but I did get the single.
Especially without a live show in it, man.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. This is very nice. Just came in, but no, I did not get the box set. And a big part of, like you said, those box sets are the live show. You know, it's very important. And I was disappointed because I think every other box set had a live show in it. I'm not
We tried
mistaken.
2112. 2112 didn't really. It had some live stuff on it, but it didn't have a live show.
Right.
But it had the alternate 2112 from Massey Hall, which was great.
Right.
You
That's
know?
right.
But then starting with Farewell of the Kings with the expanded Hammersmith show, which was great.
Yep.
And then
right.
Years had the Pink Pop, and then the Two Pictures one was probably the greatest one, though.
Yeah, I mean, that was a hell of a show. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure.
We're turning it into a Rush show. I'm sorry, Andy.
No.
Yeah, we have a habit.
No, I was the one that asked the question.
We have a tendency to do that, man.
So don't think twice about it. I was the one that started it.
When you get two Rush fanatics.
Yeah.
And in fact, Mark Alden Taylor's asked me a couple of times. So when are we going to do those Rush live albums with Al and Will?
Oh yeah, that's that could go longer than the last one, the studio records. There's more Rush live albums than people realize,
Yeah. So when I'm going to do that, I don't think. I think the way I'm going to do it is have y'all choose which ones y'all want to talk about instead of going through them all the live.
We could talk about the core ones, the main ones, not the like.
Yeah.
I would go with all of those stage exit, stage left, show of hands, different stages. Then maybe Rush Trio or something.
Yeah. The
key
y'all
tell me which ones, because I don't know. The only ones that I do have is I've got 3 live Rushes. I've got, of course, Exit Stage Left, the first one, which is
all stage.
Yeah, that and the cassette of A Show of Hands.
Show of Hands, yeah.
Those are the 3 I have.
Okay. Yeah.
But you should really have. You should try to get different stages. That's a great one.
Okay. Yeah. That's a great live record. Yeah.
That's an out of print CD, man. I don't know. It might still be relatively easy to find, but I'm not sure. So.
Yeah. When that came out, people were complaining about the bass tone. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
For different stages, and I was like, "Are you a Rush fan? Do you not want number one? Do you not expect a good bass tone from Geddy Lee? And and secondly, like, do you call yourself a Rush fan and you're complaining? You're not a Rush fan if you're not enjoying the bass tone. The bass was it was a perfect mix. That live record had a perfect mix on it, and it just sounded amazing. It was a rocking, great live record. So,
because my favorite was Exit Stage Left for the longest time, and then I think number 1 is Different Stages. I think that's my favorite. I love that. I love that stage. So.
Yeah. It's so hard, because some of the newer live packages are pretty sweet, like the Time Machine tour. I got that on vinyl. I don't have the Clockwork Angels one because these box sets are 4 discs and they're pricey, right? So they're well over $100. So I'm kind of picky these days and selective. And I got a kid and stuff, and we got a mortgage and bills like life, right? And food. Don't forget the food. So
it's not like that dude. It's not like that guy Joe Pesh.
Yeah, that's right. Joe's crazy. Yeah, Joe has everything, and millions of multiple copies of everything. Yeah, he'll.
Andy. I mean, if you've seen this guy's collection, you'd be like, just when I thought I had a lot of stuff, dude, this guy is like, he can literally, this guy can open up a Rush museum. Honestly.
Yeah, he could. Yeah,
stuff that I never even knew existed. I was like, what the hell did you find that? He's got the Rush pinball machine. I mean, it's just insane.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, he's the go-to guy. Like, if you're not sure about a pressing or something, you can bounce it off him, and he'll tell you all the details.
Very knowledgeable.
Yeah, for sure.
Shit, so.
Yeah. So does he have a YouTube page?
He's on he's on the Rush, like a lot of the Rush collectors.
101. 1001 collectors. He's on my page. He's probably on Al's group. He's on all the Rush communities. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, very knowledgeable guy.
That's something I could look out for.
Yeah, for sure. But we can talk Rush all night. Yeah. Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, man, of course. And the week after my mom's the Mother's Day show, it's going to the next show after that. We're going to be ranking. It's the 17th of May. ranking all the Tom Petty albums.
Oh, good. That's a good one.
So that'll be something if y'all want to join in on that one.
I'll tune into that and watch for sure. I'd like to learn more about.
And then I've already got the shows for May done. I'm gonna have a vinyl battle. This one is going to be pretty cool. It's going to be Night Songs by Cinderella against Bon Jovi's Slippery When Wet.
Okay.
Yeah, and then after that, one and done with Black Sabbath. If both of y'all want to join that one, where we'll use one song only from each Black Sabbath album.
Wow.
From the first one to their last one. Even the ones with Tony and the one with Glenn Hughes as well. So that's coming up at the end of May. So I hope you fans out there would like to join us. I know that a couple of these guys will be on several of their shows or watching them. So thank you so much for watching Neil Young of the 1990s. Hey guys, thanks a lot for sharing y'all's time going through these albums and ranking them with us. Thank you so much. Y'all take care, and I'll see y'all next time. I'll see y'all.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Good night.
Good night,
y'all.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.